Shalom, family, and welcome back to the Submitted You channel. If you're new here, I'm a professor of mathematics who specializes in logical reasoning. This video is not an attack on the man that you see in front of me, nor is it an accusation against the young men who are not boys, but the young men who traveled to Horn Island with Nolan Wells. The purpose of this video and every other video that I've done so far on this story is to examine the reasoning that is being presented to us publicly. Now, on July 30th, 2026, the investigation into Nolan Wells' death remains unsolved, and the district attorney has announced that the matter will be reviewed by a grand jury. What does that mean? That means that no commentator, no attorney, no activist, no witness, or content creator currently possesses a publicly established final conclusion about what happened. That is key. So everything else is evidentiary, right? The SETO call is evidence, and that's SEA, as in C, tow, call, is evidence, okay? The towing footage is evidence, or what we're told about the towing footage is evidence. Witness statements so far as the ones who have given testimony on Brandon's platform, it's evidence. It's not the conclusion that they weren't involved in something nefarious, but evidence must still be authenticated, tested, compared, and placed into a reliable timeline. Okay, so evidence is not the same thing as a conclusion. Evidence of something is not the same thing as a conclusion. So let us proceed through the relevant portions of his presentation, performative presentation, in sequence. Okay, so I'm going to start at the 4-minute and 18-minute mark, or excuse me, 4-minute and 18-second mark, and I'll be stopping this periodically. Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, everybody was saying, B. Tatum, what do you think about the audio? What do you think about the audio? What do you think about this newfound audio? First and foremost, and I may have alluded to this before we went to the weekend, but when I first heard it, I turned the volume up as loud as I could, and I didn't hear none of that stuff they were saying. And then I know the context around when the call occurred, and therefore I perceived, based on the knowledge that I have, the witness testimony, and also looking into it myself, is that the conversation that they said couldn't have happened. And it doesn't make sense that it had happened because obviously Nolan was not on a boat during this situation. And if he was on a boat during this situation and there was an altercation that happened, everybody and their mama would have seen it because they're right there at Horn Island with 100 boats and thousands of people right there. But because people have a vested interest and confirmation bias, that no matter if Jesus Christ of Nazareth came out of the sky and said, these boys had nothing to do with Nolan's death, people will reject Christ Jesus and stop believing in him because they're invested in believing these kids must have done something. Now, I'm not saying if they did or didn't, I'm saying the evidence is showing that they were nowhere near Nolan when his life was taken. Whether it's a drowning or whether somebody killed him, these kids were not there. How about we focused on other leads so we can figure out what happened? Because somebody may have been involved in it, and we're looking in the wrong direction.
Okay, so I think he's gonna transition to something, but he said, I didn't hear none of that stuff. Obviously, Nolan was not on a boat. Everybody and their mama would have seen it. The evidence is showing that they were nowhere near Nolan when his life was taken. So pause for a second, Brandon. Those are several different conclusions. Several different conclusions have just been combined as though they were one established fact. First, I did not hear it does not logically establish that it was not said. That's first of all. That is a personal auditory judgment. How many times have you listened to something and have heard various things. I mean, there are people who, for example, if you listen to sports commentary, uh, many of us would laugh because we may hear them making innuendos towards, copulation. And then you ask your wife, hey, did you hear that? She's like, no, I did not hear that. So that is a personal auditory judgment mechanic of his own ears, not a forensic determination. Someone else claiming that they hear the words does not establish that the words were said either. Okay? Both are evidentiary, both are possibilities. That's the idea. But him saying everything else is absolutely false is disingenuous. Both sides must demonstrate that their interpretation, demonstrate their interpretation through reliable audio analysis, right? Reliable audio analysis. Secondly, the statement that Nolan was obviously not on the island, obviously on the island and not on the boat, assumes the very point that demands an answer to the question that we all want. A conclusion does not become obvious simply because witnesses have repeated it. You can repeat the same false narrative over and over and over. Why? Because you've coordinated the points so that they align. Now that you've had your story perfected, you have to just keep repeating it. And so the fact that you repeat, oh, well, his testimony seems very consistent, therefore it must be true. I'm sorry, that is not how logic works. Thirdly, the argument that thousands of people would have witnessed an altercation is an argument from presumed visibility. A crowded location does not guarantee that every event is observed, recognized, remembered, recorded, or reported. People can be nearby without continuously watching one particular boat. And then even if witnesses that are reliable saw Nolan alive after, this boat departed, that would establish only that Nolan was reportedly seen later. It would not automatically demonstrate when Nolan died, how Nolan died, whether anyone contributed to his death, whether every person's complete account is accurate. We're talking about an athlete, someone who was proficient in swimming, and somehow you're going to conclude that he drowned. That's one of the narratives. Moreover, that these young men were nowhere near Nolan when his life was taken. The time of the boat has not been publicly established with that degree of precision. And then finally, the statement begins with, I'm not saying that they didn't or did, but it immediately proceeds to say that the evidence shows that they were nowhere near Nolan when his life was taken. Those positions are inconsistent. I think he's just going off on a fly. He doesn't even know what he's saying. Either the evidence is presently inconclusive or it establishes their absence at the time of death. Both claims cannot be presented simultaneously. Let's continue.
More than likely, nobody was involved in it, but we shall see. All right, let's get to the TMZ debunking the audio that was put out and people doing enhancements. We got a whole segment here. Y'all stay tuned. We're going to go methodically through each individual step. We're going to play TMZ's thing. We're going to play the enhanced audio. We're going to play the woman who enhanced the audio. And then we're going to listen to the full audio, us, so y'all can hear exactly what is being said in its entirety, full context. And I promise you, it's going to shock you that some of the things that's said on there, you got to wonder, the people that's highlighting certain moments, why did they put the rest of it in there? Why did they copy and paste these segments? You will find out here shortly. Here's the TMZ, a new update from TMZ. The young lady is reporting on it. Roll it.
Here with another development in the Nolan Wells case, TMZ has learned evidence apparently shows Nolan Wells was still on Horn Island after his friend's boat left. Sources with direct knowledge.
We already knew this. Warren and Tristan already said this, but y'all were, not y'all that's listening, y'all smart, I'm talking about your cousin them. They were defiant and saying these boys are lying and all this other stuff, and then now TMZ is reporting on it. Maybe you'll listen. Roll it.
Tell TMZ authorities have evidence suggesting Nolan was on the Mississippi Barrier Island after the boat departed on the 4th of July, which would mark a major development in the investigation. Ware told at least 2 witnesses interviewed by law enforcement claimed they saw Nolan on the island after the boat headed back to the mainland. TMZ also enhanced the audio from Nolan's friend's frantic call for help when their boat was sinking, and some people believe they can hear someone saying, "Is he dead?" But sources tell TMZ people on the boat who have heard the questionable audio believe the words being heard are simply panic during the chaotic moment the boat was sinking. Meanwhile, Nolan's alleged best friend, Warren Hudson, says he last saw Nolan around 3 p.m. that day, but claims he spoke with someone who said they last saw Nolan on the island around 6 p.m. Hudson also insists his group was not the last to see Nolan, saying there were still dozens of boats around Horn Island when they left. Nolan was reported missing later that night and was found dead in the water days later. His parents are now conducting their own investigation as questions continue to surround the timeline of what really happened that 4th of July. We'll keep you guys updated as we learn more.
Okay, perfect. Here's TMZ's page. I might have to read through this real quick. It says evidence appeared to show, and this is exactly what she said, Nolan Wells was still on Horn Island. Friends had confirmed it. We already confirmed it. We already interviewed Warren, and we already interviewed Tristan. They already showed me evidence of this. They already showed me video. They showed me all kinds of stuff that they have already given over to the police department. And so I told you guys, and I'm not saying I told you so or nothing like that. I'm just saying this should give credence to what I'm doing because we already shared this with you guys, and TMZ just confirmed it.
Okay. Listen carefully to the language that is used in the TMZ report. Evidence apparently shows. Evidence apparently shows. Sources with direct knowledge claim. At least 2 witnesses say. Those qualifiers, they're important. But TMZ did not publicly release authenticated witness statements conclusively proving that Nolan remained on the island. TMZ reported what unnamed sources claimed investigators possessed. Okay? That's a difference. That matters. TMZ's own article said evidence apparently. Okay? The language matters. TMZ's own article said evidence apparently showed Nolan was still on the island and attributed the assertion to sources with alleged knowledge of the investigation. Could this be the person who unalived him? Coming anonymously, presenting themselves. Did they call TMZ publicly? Did they call them on a private number? I mean, there's more questions than answers based on TMZ's statements. And again, that may be a legitimate and important lead, sure, but it is not the same thing as publicly demonstrated proof. Brandon then says that TMZ confirmed what he had already reported. It's almost like he wants a pat on the back for going down to Mississippi. What's the ticket? $300 for a round trip, $500 for a round trip. I'm sure he has it. I'm sure he's very wealthy. But flying down to Mississippi and saying that you have proof that you've pretty much solved the crime is more Scooby-Doo than reality. TMZ confirmed what he had already reported. But an outlet, a gossip outlet, mind you, reporting pivotal information attributed to sources does not necessarily prove independent confirmation. TMZ, let's be honest, TMZ is a gossip column. It's a gossip column. Not saying that they have never reported something that's true, but let's be honest, it's TMZ. We would need to know who the witnesses are, whether they were truly independent of one another, what they actually reported seeing, who was with Nolan at the time, how they identified Nolan. How do you know it was Nolan? What was he wearing? Like, was his hair long? Was it short? What was his complexion? Things like that. I mean, just basic questions. Their viewing distance. How close were you? Did you see any other brown people around, or was it just, you know, European Americans around? The exact timeline. When did you see this? Whether photographs, videos, digital records, or other evidence corroborate your testimony, or whether they could be essentially relying on information originating from the same group. It's like, oh, yeah, you know what? Maybe I did see him. Let me call and report. Yeah, I did see him. Until that information is established, the appropriate statement is that there are reportedly witnesses claiming Nolan was alive on the island after the boat departed. That is materially different from declaring that it has been confirmed. And that's just basic logic. Let's continue.
Can you please stop projecting things into this case that do not exist, because you're not doing Nolan any favors. You're just distracting and creating chaos that should have never happened. All right, let's get to the next clip. Now, here's the enhanced audio, because I want to go through, and we're going to go in through this whole thing, and we're going to debunk, provide more context, information that most people are not trying to do at all. Now, I listened to this myself, and we got the young lady who claimed to enhance the video. We're going to play her testimony on here. But this is bullcrap. It's bullcrap for two reasons. One is that when I listened to the audio, I didn't hear none of this stuff that you see on this thing. I didn't hear nothing of the nature. And then when you have context, you realize none of this could have been said, because Nolan was still alive on the island, witnessed by more than one person, after warning them had already left. So how is they talking about Nolan dead on a boat when somebody saw him alive after they already left, after they made this phone call? Y'all.
Okay. Now, so none of this could have been said because Nolan was still alive on the island, right? That's circular reasoning. None of this could have been said because Nolan was still on the island. The argument assumes that Nolan was definitely alive after the call, and then assumes that assumption, or excuse me, assumes that Nolan was alive after the call, and then uses that particular assumption to dismiss the audio that some people believe challenges the reported timeline. But the timeline is one of the matters being investigated. Brandon, you cannot assume that the conclusion, you cannot assume the conclusion in order to eliminate evidence that might contradict the conclusion. The proper process would be, first, authenticate the original recording, which is what was done by an audio engineer. Secondly, establish the time of the call. Thirdly, identify the speakers in the call. We hear Bart, we hear, I believe, Warren, I believe maybe Wyatt. We definitely hear women, older women, maybe young women, which sounds a lot like Boat C in my analysis on Instagram, that had two separate groups, unnamed groups, college friends and also girls, Warren and then another individual that I can't recall at the moment. But again, identify the speakers. Fourth, isolate the disputed sounds without introducing artifacts, which is what an audio engineer is going to do, and you're going to see that. Fifth, have multiple independent experts evaluate the recording without first showing them like suggested captions. There's nothing wrong with showing suggested captions. She's just putting it out there, showing that, hey, this is what I heard. And she's going to tell you, like, hey, this is what I heard. Disregard if you cover up the captions in the transcription, tell me what you hear, right? That's taking an unbiased approach. Then the sixth thing is compare those findings with authenticated witness statements and physical evidence. Only then then and only then can a responsible conclusion be considered to be equally clear, right? Hearing something that resembles "Is he dead" would not automatically prove that the speaker was necessarily referring to Nolan, right? And I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. Let's just say I'm going to go with his narrative, right? It could concern another person. It could be different words entirely. It could be audio distortion. It could be an artifact introduced during processing. The audio should not be treated as proof of guilt. But then again, what the vast majority of people hear is very, very interesting juxtaposed to what he hears. And that's important because the vast majority, a ton of people, even I believe Nancy Grace has mentioned that it the audio doesn't sound good, right? It does not sound good. And his justifications for the audio are absolutely, I would say they're much weaker than everybody else's hearing, what everybody else is hearing. But again, neither should be taken as absolute yet. Okay? Neither should be taken as absolute yet, right? But again, both positions essentially are evidence. So saying that this transcription is false, you got to be out of your mind. And saying that there are other possibilities in the audio is true. So those two propositions can both be true at the same time. It can be true that this audio and the transcription is 100% accurate. And it can also be true that there are possibilities outside of this transcript that could also be true. And that's fair.
I gotta stop playing and just be honest for a change. Roll the clip. Here, time out. I started over. I want to give you guys a chance to turn your audio up, get into a place where you can hear, freeze this, pause it, or whatever you got to do. Turn your audio up. And be honest about what you hear. And do you hear things like, can we cover it up? As if they're saying cover up a murder. Yeah, I thought about that. Maybe they're talking about the hole in the boat. What they call the bilge port or something like that.
So I did Google that. In fact, I asked my wife, whose dad has a small boat. She said a bilge pump, you would never cover that up. And I just to confirm it, if you do a simple search, it says no, you should never completely cover or box in a bilge pump because it needs open access to take in water quickly, and covering it could block the intake, trap debris, and prevent the automatic float switch from moving. Okay, so and again, confirmation. My wife mentioned that the bilge pump is used to get water out of the boat, not to get water in the boat. So what he just said is essentially not a miscalculation on his part. He's just speaking as though he knows, but he doesn't know. But he's making it seem like it's absolutely impossible if you disagree with him.
Bilge pump. So maybe they talk about the bilge pump.
Impossible.
Maybe they're saying to cover that up. But no, y'all got to say somebody killing somebody in Nolan Wells' death. Roll it and tell me, do you hear any of these things in the comment section that you see on this screen right here? Roll it.
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our village pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership. Shut up! Shut the fuck up! Damn it, Bart.
All right. Go back to that screen real quick. I want to just look at what they're saying. They're saying cover up. I heard something similar to cover up, and that they probably was saying, can we cover up this hole that's in the boat or whatever that port is? It says you killed him. I didn't hear that. He's already dead. I didn't hear that. Is he dead? I didn't hear that. Nolan yells, or they yell Nolan. I didn't hear that. Nolan, wake up. I didn't hear that. Wake the F up. Now, we heard him cuss and say, shut the F up, right? We didn't hear no wake the F up. Now, how you get that out of this video? Y'all gonna go to hell, you keep playing and lying and putting stuff out there. Come on, play the lady that did.
Okay, so again, he's just giving his audio interpretation of those things that he claims that he did not hear. Okay, things that he did not hear, and so that part is very important to understand.
Enhancements. I wish she didn't have a UFC shirt on, but that don't mean she worked for the UFC. I hope she don't, because this ain't a good look, in my opinion. If she has something to do with that transcript, but let her speak. Roll it.
Okay, so before
Real quick, that is purely anecdotal. I don't know if she does work for UFC, but he's saying that this isn't a good look. I'm not sure what he means by that, because she's going to tell you, and I'm just going to let it play real quick.
I play this, I want to quickly explain what I did, what you're looking at on the screen, and why I chose to approach this audio the way that I did. As a professional audio engineer with experience in dialogue editing, dialogue cleanup, sound design, and post-production, I decided to work on that C-toe call using traditional audio processing techniques rather than relying on any AI voice separation or AI enhancement. My goal was pretty much to preserve as much of the original recording as possible while making the quieter dialogue and background audio easier to hear. So I basically used techniques such as subtractive EQ, compression, gain adjustments, noise reduction, frequency isolation, and other traditional processing methods. So what I did was I separated Vicky, the C-toe dispatcher, from Warren and the audio originating from the boat so that I can concentrate more closely on what was happening behind and around Warren, pretty much on the boat. And I specifically chose not to.
I don't know why he's smiling, right? And again, this guy's very condescending. Like it's almost like he's already come to a conclusion before he actually listens to the entire analysis, right? So just keep that in mind, right? His eyes, that's not a genuine smile, right? Because here's the thing: what is she's not humoring us. She's telling us, the science behind the mechanics in which she used to authenticate this audio without the introduction of AI, right? This is pure human analysis, and she's very sophisticated, very intelligent, and I'm glad to see that she is also a Black American.
To rely on AI because aggressive AI enhancements and voice isolation tools can sometimes introduce artifacts and distort the speech or create ambiguity around the sounds that were originally present. And for something this serious, I wanted my processing to remain as conservative as possible. You'll also notice time code and dialogue written on the side of the screen and pop up.
So she wrote this stuff on that screen. She wrote the stuff y'all just heard. She wrote.
So now notice he's not disregard her credentials. Disregard the fact that she is an audio engineer and go straight to the fact that, oh wow, she put these transcribed words on here. I wonder if he would do this to Nancy Grace, excuse me. I wonder if she said that she did this same thing and she put video out and transcribed it, would he also be ridiculing the fact that she transcribed the video? This guy is absolutely disgraceful in the fact that he is so biased towards his own people. And this happens time and time again. Like, his identity, I don't even know if he knows who he is. I remember Stephen A. Smith asked him, like, what's the big idea of why you want to identify as black before you identify as anything else? Well, when you walk into a room, you're definitely that, right? But until you identify, like, I mean, say for example, there's a difference between, um, you know, a black man who is for black people, who love black people, who identify as black. Let's just say there's a difference between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. There's a reason why Malcolm X is not presented in European American history books, right? There's a reason why Martin Luther King is and not Malcolm X. All right. Because you have people like him who are, you don't even know if you're coming or going as a human being. Right. But let's continue. Again, he's attacking her as essentially, this is an ad hominem section, but let's continue.
We're going to listen to the full video. Let her finish.
During each segment, that dialogue represents what I personally hear as an audio engineer while processing
and see, she noticed she is way more advanced than him because she's able to acknowledge that, hey, this is what I hear as an audio engineer. So she puts it out publicly that, hey, this is what I hear, but listen on your own and tell me what you hear. That's very genuine. And that's non-bias. But look at his face. Because he doesn't understand what it means to be non-biased or neutral until you can actually get all of the evidence so that you can come to a conclusion.
Repeatedly reviewing these sections, I'm pretty much providing it as a listening reference, not as a declaration that my interpretation is the only possible interpretation. And that's important.
Genuine.
I want you to listen for yourself, use headphones if you have them, listen closely, and decide with your own ears what you believe is being said. And you can also return to the original unprocessed recording.
So again, real quick, the audio engineer explicitly says that the written dialogue represents what she personally hears. She also says that it is a listening reference, not a declaration that her interpretation is the only possible interpretation. That is an appropriate qualification. Suggested captions can influence what people believe they hear. So once the phrase is he dead appears on the screen, listeners may begin interpreting an ambiguous sound according to that suggestion. And that is precisely why blind analysis is important. But instead of limiting the response to methodology, the presentation he's going to call her work garbage and questions whether she is being disingenuous and comments on her clothing, right? She's, she works, I hope she doesn't work for, UFC because this isn't a good look. None of that evaluates the audio. Her shirt is irrelevant. Her intelligence is relevant, obviously, because she's miles ahead of him in terms of dissecting this audio footage and doing things with, that, obviously, I'm not going to say obviously, I don't know what he's capable of doing, but if he was, he would have done what she took her time to do, I'm sure. Nevertheless, her perceived motives, according to him, are irrelevant. They're irrelevant, but somehow he thinks that she has ulterior motives when she clearly says otherwise. The relevant questions are this: was the original audio used? She said yes. Was the file altered before she received it? There is no evidence that she said it was. She used the original audio. What filters were applied? Were frequencies removed or exaggerated? She said that she did not use any AI so that it would not have the possibility to introduce artifacts or things that would ruin the original audio. She mentioned all of that. Can another qualified engineer reproduce the same result? I mean, I would think so. She's obviously very qualified. And what do independent listeners hear without being given suggested words? If you cover those words up, I remember listening to the audio. I put on several different headphones, and I heard, different things. Um, and could some of her transcription be aligned with what I heard? Absolutely. And I have no problem in admitting that. But again, everyone is going to potentially hear something, could potentially hear something that's different from the next person. So him saying that anyone who disagrees with his hearing is absolutely absurd, or I do not hear it, according to him, that's not debunking. The intellectually responsible conclusion is that the disputed background speech can remain uncertain unless, not refuting what she said, because obviously she knows what she's doing. Now, whether or not, I would assume that in a type of investigation like this, if you're listening to audio footage, you would hire someone like her, right? An audio engineer to enhance the audio footage. So we're getting a free public analysis from an engineering audio scientist, right? Just keep that in mind. All right, let's continue.
And compare directly with what you're hearing here. You'll also notice that my time code may not match the regular timestamp on the original uploaded video. And that's because I'm working inside a professional post-production timeline, a digital audio workstation, basically using SMPTE time code, which in film, that's displayed in hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. Film and TV timelines are completely different from timestamps that you see when you're watching regular videos or when you're watching a movie and you hit pause. So basically the time code on the screen is there to identify the precise location within my working session, not to represent
I can't listen to her anymore. Keep her face up there. I want the world to see this. We're gonna listen to the full thing together, and then you're gonna hear the context around it, and then it's gonna sound super crazy that this woman thinks she heard that within the context of what we're gonna listen to. None of what she said makes any sense when you listen to the whole video and you put the context together. Why does this? And she sounds so smart. She probably did.
She is very intelligent. There's nothing about sounding so smart in it. She is very intelligent. Is not you sound so smart. No, she is very intelligent. Right? Notice how he tried to reduce her. It's hard to listen to, but I need to put this out. But
very well in school. I take it as she's being disingenuous. Why is the smartest and most brilliant amongst us putting out garbage like this? I listen to it. Y'all listen to it. Ain't nobody talking about did you kill him and all this other stuff. All right, now let's go to the real video, the audio. Let's listen to it together. It's long. It's lengthy. It's 8 minutes and 40 seconds. But if you care about the context, I want you to listen in. And we're going to play the whole thing, and then we're going to talk about it afterwards. But I want you to listen to what you've been seeing online, listen to what the young lady said about her editing strategy, and then I want you to listen to the toll dispatch, and then in context, how any of that stuff makes sense within what you hear. Roll it.
Connect you. Detail assistance, Vicky speaking. How can I help you?
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership.
Time out. So he's identifying that he's at the west tip of Horn Island. So they're not off in the sea in the Gulf of America. They're not a distance from the island. He's on the island in a boat in front of everybody. That's the context here. I'm on the west part of.
they're in front of everybody, but they can't get help from the people around them. So they have to call Cito?
Horn Island. He's finna give GPS coordinates here in a minute, but this context is taking place right on the island, in front of everybody. Roll it.
All right, of course. How far is the water coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Ankles? Hello?
Hey,
Yes, how far is the water coming up, sir?
it's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down.
All right, well, let's get you going. Membership number or phone number listed on that count, sir?
I don't know the phone number. It's either. I think it's. Try that.
All right.
I know we have a membership like guaranteed. I don't
All
have the
right,
tag
unless
on
you
here.
have a
It got ripped
membership
off.
number or anything, it's okay. I'll get you over to the captain. What's the best phone number to reach you at?
Reach me at 2.
All right, and is everybody on board in good health otherwise?
Yeah, everybody's
How
on
many?
board.
All right, do you need the United States Coast Guard?
What?
Do you need the United States Coast Guard?
No, we do not need that.
All right.
Okay, so I will say that, you know, this portion of the call establishes several relevant facts. That the caller reports that the boat is taking on water. He requests assistance. He supplies, you know, contact information. When asked whether everyone on the boat is in good health, he responds in the affirmative. So that statement deserves careful examination. However, everyone on board, right, ordinarily means everyone who is presently aboard the boat. It does not necessarily mean that every person who originally traveled to the island with the group. Therefore, the statement does not independently establish whether Nolan was present or absent. It does not support the conclusion that the caller was reporting no known medical emergency involving the individuals that he considered to be aboard at that moment. That's evidence. It's not a complete resolution of Nolan's location, right? So let's continue.
All right, do you have your current GPS coordinates?
Let me go look.
Time out. So I just want you to put it in perspective. Like at this point, with all the stuff that you've heard, does this sound like it's a cover-up? Like this is made a fake call in order to cover up the fact they killed Nolan? Or did they have killed Nolan right here during this call in front of everybody? Roll it.
If not, I can send you a text message.
North. All right, are you ready?
Yes, sir, I'm available.
North 3 degrees. But 4672.
All right, 4672. All right, and you were breaking up a little bit. Can you just repeat it one more time to make sure I have it correct?
Sorry, look.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, what?
So you're breaking up. If you need assistance, do you have a VHF radio?
No, we do not have the VHF radio.
All right, well, let's try to get you going because you don't have good cell phone reception. Can you verify
Time out.
your coordinates?
Have you noticed she said you don't have good cell phone reception? And this is one of the reasons why Nolan didn't have his phone on him and why most people didn't have
That is not one of the reasons that Nolan did not have his phone on him. According to Warren, it was uncommon for folks to have their phone on them if they were swimming. Not it was uncommon for people to have their phone on them if they were on Horn Island. If you're on land, you would want your phone. If you're swimming, you would not want your phone. It's just simple logic. So the idea that Nolan would not want his phone at any period of time when he was on that island is a matter of speculation on Warren's testimony and on his testimony. And so we should consider their conjecture as simply that, a matter of opinion.
a phone on them because if you don't have good cell phone reception, you're not uploading nothing on Snapchat and Instagram, and with 1,000 people out there, your reception definitely ain't gonna be good.
And again, that doesn't mean that there won't be evidence of that. There doesn't mean that you won't be taking pictures to upload later, right? How many times have you been at an event and let's just say if you don't have coverage, that doesn't mean you can't take photos or you can't take videos and then upload them later. Like, hey, I'm going to take a picture of being on the island and seeing all the boats. I can't upload it now, but I'm going to upload it later. He's ruling out the possibility that you can upload images later and that you could still take videos and images at that time when you're on the island and then just upload them later. He's ruling out that possibility, and to what end, what his motives are is very questionable.
This would make sense why Nolan and others left their phone on the boat and they weren't in the water with their phones. No reception anyway, even if you had your phone on you. So why would a person have their phone on them in chest deep water with no reception or limited, weak reception? Okay, roll it.
One more time.
Okay, my coordinates are 30 degrees by 14.684 north, and then west by 88 degrees by 46.79.
Right, it looks like you're on Horn Island, correct? Are you
Yes,
on
we are
Horn
at Horn
Island?
Island. Yes.
All right, is the boat sinking or you have it aground?
We were sinking, yes.
Is it
I will say the coordinates essentially, well, I'll get back to that
the
in a
ground
second.
is the question?
No, we're not aground. We are in 17 foot of water. We're in 31 foot of water.
All right, have to ask. Where do you,
All right,
and what
pause.
do you,
The coordinates has them on Horn Island. They were just, because I was there, and it looks like the first, 70 feet from the island, maybe 100 feet from the island is you can walk in it. But then there's a drop. If you go out enough, you go drop straight in the water. And so they're just maybe a boat or two length outside of actually being on the island. They gave the coordinates. The dispatcher said, are you actually on the island, like physically? That's how close they were to Horn Island. She thought they were physically on the island. So that means that all of this is going on literally in front of everybody. And we got a picture real quick. Can we put that picture up? Remember that picture that we had on a Substack of the boat? Let's keep playing the tow. We'll play the tow until we're ready for the photo.
want to do? Do you want to be towed back?
I want to get this boat unsank and towed back, yes.
All right, where would you like it towed to, sir?
You can tow it to Ocean Springs Harbor, or Fort Bayou Launch.
All right, how many adults and children on board?
No,
All right,
there's no
pause.
children.
All right, let's put that image up here so you guys can kind of see. This is, if you notice, they're literally almost on the thing, and here's them getting towed out. That's everybody and their mama can see what's going on in that boat. If there was a fight, an altercation, a dead black man on that boat, while they're getting towed on this strap right here, everybody can see him. The people.
Real quick, because he's going on a rant right now. I will say the coordinates establish the reported location of the boat during the call, but they do not establish the location of every individual who had previously traveled on that boat. All right. We don't know who was on that boat. All we have is witness testimony of who traveled on that boat. Who are these individuals on this boat right here? We don't have testimonies of these individuals, right? They also do not establish what occurred before the call, right? What happened with the call in the background? Because you got to keep in mind there were women in the audio call, but are there women on the boat at this time? Because it sounds like there were women in the background on the boat during the call. So the argument is repeatedly made that the boat was close enough to the island that everybody would have seen an altercation. But coordinates do not prove continuous observation. They place an object at a location, right? It's X comma Y, an ordered pair. You know this. But they do not tell who was watching, what each person could see, whether another boat obstructed someone else's view, or whether anything occurred before the recording began, or whether observers understood the significance of what they saw. The towing video is relevant, and it may support the proposition that Nolan was not visibly aboard the boat when that footage was recorded. Who is recording? But even that might be stated precisely, right? But here's the thing. Who is towing them? Is this dispatch towing them? Because if I recall, I think that the captain who is going to be on the audio call, I believe he's going to play that. I think that he said that he spoke to their uncle, and the uncle said that they don't need help. So the video, of course, can establish what is visible within the frame at that particular moment, but it cannot by itself prove that Nolan was alive elsewhere, or that he was somehow not alive at this time, right? We don't know. This is just evidence. So not visibly aboard the towed boat and confirmed alive on the island afterward are two different propositions. Evidence for the first proposition is not automatically proof of the second, right? Let's let him continue.
People that's at Horn Island, the people driving to Horn Island, like, I think it's helpful when you see it with your own eyes. They're literally right out there in front of everybody. And all right, continue the clip.
And I forgot to mention something. He also said that poor cellular reception was used to explain why Nolan allegedly left his phone on the boat. But again, that's speculation. Having weak reception may explain like the difficulty of completing a phone call, right? But I believe Warren also mentioned that you can make a phone call on the island. Nevertheless, and I think he also mentioned on Nancy Grace that you can make a phone call on the island. And she backed him into a corner and said that you can make a phone call on the island. So the assumption that you had no reception is unfounded, right? So again, that the fact that as a matter of fact, I think I mentioned that, saying that Nolan left his phone on the boat, that was how they obtained, or excuse me, that was how they kept his phone is, I mean, it's absolutely absurd. We live in an age where no one leaves their phone. And if they do, they would be just, I mean, at wit's end. Let's just put it like that.
How many adults and children on board?
No, there's no children.
So, is there anybody on board? How many adults, sir? That was the question. Hello, can you hear me?
Try to jump in and pull the plug while you're going.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yep, I just need you to answer these questions so I can get you over to the captain.
Okay.
How many adults on board?
There's 0 adults on board.
There's nobody on board the boat?
No. Nobody here is over the age of 21.
Sir, that was not the question. Is there a person? Is there a person, a living individual on the boat?
Mind you, I think it's actually hilarious that he doesn't bring up the fact that they were underage drinking, and then that also in the state of Mississippi, as a matter of fact, it says Mississippi does not issue a traditional driver style boating license, but anyone born after June 30th, 1980 must complete an approved safety course to get a boater education certificate to operate a motorized vessel or personal watercraft. Operators born on or before June the 30th, 1980 are permanently exempt. None of these boys fit the criteria for being exempt. So my question is, do they have a boater education certificate for operating the vessels that they were operating on July the 4th? Not just that, not just the fact that do they have a boater education certificate, but who supplied them with the alcohol on that particular day, since these boys were under the age of 21? And why isn't he bringing that up? Just something to think about.
Hello?
Is there a living person, someone breathing on the boat? Is there anybody on the boat?
Yes, there's lots of people breathing on the boat.
All right, how many people, sir?
Like 7.
All right, thank you.
All right, pause. I don't mean to laugh, man. I can just imagine these boys drunk out their mind trying to make this phone call. And that's the only thing, you know, she says, anybody breathing on the boat? You're like, a bunch of people are breathing on the boat. Anyway, I just so y'all know, y'all like think I'm insensitive about it. I'm just thinking when I was in college and I was hammered and I'm trying to make a dispatch call with this phone going in and out and chaos going on. I could imagine these boys in a full, like, spaz mode. Finish the clip.
Does everyone have life jackets on or available to them?
Yes, we have life jackets available.
All right. Verify what boat's sinking.
A Triton, 22-foot offshore, 22-foot Triton offshore sea flight hull.
All right. All right. Please hold. I'm transferring you to the local captain now.
Okay, thank you.
Pause. Now, with listening to this so far, does this sound like people are calling the sea tow while killing their friend or having a dead friend on board or in a panic to leave the island because they've killed somebody? This sound like some drunk kids. That boat is sinking. They're trying to communicate with sea tow. And they've gotten all the way to this point and accepted. They've given coordinates. They told what boat they're on. They told where they're at. They've given how many people on the boat. All of the above. They've cooperated to this point. Just using common sense. Do you think if they killed somebody that they will be given GPS coordinates and all kind of other stuff? It continues. 3 more.
Real quick, it's got 3 more minutes, but so the performative presentation essentially characterizes the callers as intoxicated young men panicking over a sinking boat. But panic, you know, is, I mean, it's certainly consistent with the call, right? The boat emergency appears to be genuine to a certain extent from Warren's perspective, right? We're talking about a 22-foot boat, but intoxication essentially is being inferred rather than demonstrated by the conversation itself. I will say, more importantly, the fact that the caller provides coordinates and identifies the boat and cooperates with the towing service does not prove innocence concerning every event that occurred later that day, because there were conversations about them being completely wasted, but somehow they were able to get back to the boat and not know Nolan's whereabouts. Why did they take his phone and not give his phone back to him? If, let's just say, in the event that you're saying, hey, Nolan, get on the boat, which was according to Warren, he was saying, hey, get on the effing boat, and Nolan refused to get on the boat, the logical common sense thing would be to give Nolan his phone, or Nolan would ask for his phone. I mean, come on, he's saying that we got to think commonsensical, but he's not applying it in every direction. So giving coordinates was necessary, obviously, to receive assistance, And an innocent person would provide that information, but a person concealing some unrelevant event might also provide that information when attempting to prevent a boat from sinking. Cooperation concerning one emergency does not logically establish that complete truthfulness concerning every other disputed matter. We don't know the context of the things that happened before this call. We don't. So this does not prove deception. And so again, if he's saying that, they were pulling off the island, they had just spoken to Katie, just spoken to Nolan. Nolan said he was staying. They pulled off the island. Then wouldn't Katie and the people that she was with would be able to attest that, hey, their boat is going down? And why, was the boat taking on water before they got off land? Who would logically get on a boat that is sinking and taking on water? Who would do that? Right? So this audio footage, I mean, you just gotta keep an open mind with it. It's just evidence. This is not necessarily the conclusion of anything. It's just evidence. Let's continue.
Minutes and we'll be done. Roll it.
This is Captain Seth.
Hi, Captain Seth. This is Vicky from International. How you doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Good, good. I apologize ahead of time. I really do. You're going to have a fee for service come up under...
Okay.
It sounds like a bunch of kids on board on Horn Island. He's letting me know that his father's a member, but he can't give me any information. And he's saying the boat is sinking, and he's on Horn Island. It's just unfortunate. He's just a kid. There's a lot going on. So
Right.
He said there's about a lot of people on board. He says he thinks about 7. I'm guessing they're all under 18.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to be rude. He wants you guys to go out there and unpump the boat and then tow it in.
Do you know what kind of boat it is?
He said a Triton 24-footer, but that's all he can give me.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just actually got off the phone with his grandpa, who I'm guessing is the owner of the boat. And he said,
Okay.
I just hung up with him. He said that they don't need any help right now, but if something changes, he'll call me back. So
Right.
I'm guessing that they may have figured it out, because that's what he said. So they're in a panic and their boat won't crank.
Yeah, they're in a panic. He's saying the bilge is not keeping up. I asked for Coast Guard. He said no, but he's just really upset on the back end. And, I get it. It's a kid. He just doesn't understand.
Oh, okay. Do you still have him on the line?
Yes, I still have him on the line. And, again, I couldn't find he couldn't give me anything regarding his grandfather's, membership, so it's just under fee for service.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just talked to, if you want to, we're so tied up right now. We can't really do any non-member jobs right now.
Is he a member? Did you find out if he was a member or not?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's his boat or what. I'm not sure what's going on with it. But yeah, transfer the kid over. I'll talk to him, and then I'll call his grandpa back as well.
All right. And did you want me to look up membership number or anything like that to see if he's up? I know you guys are
You can
swamped.
try this cell phone number.
Yes, sir.
Pause.
So real quick, I do find it a little strange. This is Cito, and so this is, I'm guessing, they probably call whoever is working at the time captain. And he said he had just spoken to his grandfather, but he wasn't sure if his grandfather had a membership, which is so weird. Okay, so why are you talking to the grandfather? How did you guys get connected? Did one of the boys call the grandfather and alert him of the boat sinking and that they needed assistance? And then after contacting the grandfather, did the grandfather call Cito and get in touch with not directly call Cito, because obviously the grandfather did not call Cito. The grandfather called the captain. So it seems like there's a direct communication line there. And then the boys obviously do not have the captain's number, but they call Cito instead. There's some discrepancies there because the testimonies are just conflicting. Even the captain. So you contacted, or excuse me, the grandfather contacted you and said that the boys were fine. That so the sequence of events are a little strange. Did they contact the grandfather first, and then, or was someone on the boat on the phone with the grandfather while Warren was in the background on the phone with dispatch? Like, there's just a ton of questions because there's a lot of ambiguity between the trilateral commission, right? You got the grandfather, you have the captain, you have the Cito, you have Warren, and you have the people in the background. That is like, those pieces, the boat, dispatch, the grandfather, that triangle, these triangular pieces are just not fitting together perfectly. I'm not sure what to make of this yet. I just have a lot more questions, but I need to let this continue.
As you can see, if you're syncing, this process is not quick, right? He already said that they're busy and all this other stuff, and his grandpa probably knew. I'm just assuming, using logic and common sense. Grandpa probably knew.
Again, when Brandon uses the term logic, he does not know what logic means. What he's saying is that he is using a reasonable assumption. And again, like the one I gave you earlier about, say, for example, there's a difference between a valid argument and a sound argument. A valid argument would be me saying, cardinals fly, pigeons fly, therefore all birds fly. That's a valid argument, but well, guess what? It's not a truthful argument. But it's a valid argument because it's logically, it fits the syllogism, but it's not a sound argument because I can add a bird that would refute that particular claim. So when he uses the term logic, he doesn't know what logic means. Okay, the vast majority of people who use the term logic, have not studied formal or informal logic. So the syllogism or the structure in his argument doesn't follow suit with that. What he actually means is it's reasonable to assume this. That's more clear.
If y'all sink it now, you got to make a decision now. You can't wait for them to Cito to come out because the boat gonna be underwater. And obviously, we showed y'all that picture, and this is them getting towed by somebody else instead of getting Cito. So they're getting towed. So nobody can say that they made this up and they lied. We got pictures of them actually getting towed off the island. All right, we got 50 seconds left. Roll it.
Anything on his phone number?
All right, yep. Yeah, he's an active member. Hold on.
What kind of boat do you have on there? Same boat?
Yeah, he's one of your members. Yep, 22-foot Triton. All right, I'll just disregard this one. I'm going to send you over an accurate one under this one, okay? He's one of your members. You'll get in a couple minutes, okay?
Okay, perfect. All right, and yeah, just transfer this kid over whenever you get a chance.
All right, transfer him.
Also, real quick, a genuine boat emergency and a disputed background speech or call at the very beginning can coexist. Demonstrating that the boat was sinking does not demonstrate that every disputed background phrase was imaginary, that we somehow was imagining things, or that the audio engineer was somehow imagining what she heard. Likewise, identifying a questionable phrase in the background would not demonstrate that the boat emergency was fabricated either. The full context helps us understand that what the purpose of the call was, but it does not automatically identify every background voice or resolve every statement made after from the primary caller. The reasonable conclusion is that the caller primarily concerns a genuine boat, or seems to have a genuine boat emergency, while the disputed background speech can remain a little ambiguous to support a definite accusation or exoneration. Those two things can coexist at the same time. But keep in mind now, just because, let's just say they got towed at some point, that still begs the question: where was Nolan? What happened to Nolan? You know, how come you guys didn't see Nolan at this time? Was Nolan aware that the boat was sinking? You know, no one had eyes on anyone at this time. You know, and I mean, there's a lot of questions, but I'm gonna let this ride.
Now, thank you again, Captain. Stay
Alrighty.
safe out there. It's crazy. Have a drink.
Oh, it's wild. Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hello? Hello? Are you there?
Okay, and I think that's the end of the clip. So now you've had a chance to watch it in context, and so when you see that little part where you hear these background noises and voices and you think they are trying to cover up a murder of somebody, the context gives you the reasonableness to say it does appear that they're sinking. It does appear that they're making a concerted effort to fix things and to get the tow, and they're talking to grandpa and they're communicating with multiple people. It doesn't seem to be some cover up. It doesn't seem to be something afoot or something untoward when you put two and two together. All right, now here's a couple clips of people just lying. They just out here lying, bro. If you see this
Okay, I think I'm gonna stop this video right here. I will say there is other things that Brandon is gonna mention with regard to some stuff that is online that I'm not really gonna show at this time. But the audio footage, listen, it's evidence. I do definitely believe that, you know, shout out to the audio engineer. She's fantastic, very intelligent. I love Black Americans who are absolutely living above the narrative that Brandon uses on his platform, which is to discredit and to lie and to promote European lies about Black people that only exist in the minds of Europeans that live in this country. So shame on him. That's number one. But shout out to her for the work and time that she put into authenticating that audio footage and helping us to hear more clear. Just, you know, great work there. But I will say though, with respect to that audio footage, is it possible that her transcription was authentic? Absolutely. You cannot dispute what she heard. Can we dispute what Brandon hears? No, we can't. He hears what he wants to hear. And that may be true for many of us, right? But there is many people have agreed with her testimony of what the audio footage suggests. Now, that being said, listening to what he says is the full context of that audio, I think is a matter of, it still opens up the idea of the question of what happened before this took place. What happened before the boat exited the island and they were apparently taking on water before, but they decided to take the boat out anyway, despite the boat taking on water. That just seems counterintuitive. Drunk or not drunk, why would you do that? Number one, that just doesn't make any sense to me. And then if they were in contact with their grandfather and their grandfather contacted the captain and said that they don't need help, assuming, you know, they were using their cell phones at the time to contact their grandfather. And so were they aware that they had Nolan's phone at that time? Why didn't they take Nolan's phone back to him at that time and just assume that Nolan was going to make it safe off that island? Do they have any guilt that they took Nolan's only form of communication to the outside world at the time? There's just a lot of questions. And I'm sorry, but assuming that these boys have or excuse me, I keep saying boys, I've been listening to him too often, assuming that these men are telling the truth about every single thing is disingenuous. And he won't admit that, but I'm going to admit that on this channel. Okay. And that's all I have for this for now. Stay tuned um, for the next series of videos that are coming out. I believe he also released another video recently that talked about the mother issuing out subpoenas. So I'm going to look at that video, review it, and then I'll get back to you on my thoughts. But thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, share, and give a comment, hype the video. I do appreciate the commentary and your thoughts in the comment section. I love interacting with all of you, regardless of whether or not you agree or disagree. Yeah, I appreciate you. And again, thank you for watching. Till next time, scripture, logic, and truth. Shalom.